So by way of a very, very brief introduction of myself, and before I get this going, my name is Benjamin. I'm the founder and director of two organizations. The purpose of our convening today is to discuss the New State Solution. The New State Solution, as was entitled, is a conflict-ending alternative to the status quo. It's important to note that this solution emanates from Israelis who have dedicated their lives, the best of their talents, and their abilities to the defense of the State of Israel and all who dwell within her borders. They merit being listened to, they merit being learned from, and they are here to impart the best of their knowledge by way of any question that you ask and the response thereto. So let me delve right in about the New State Solution. The New State Solution calls for an opportunity to view anew the Israel-Palestinian conflict and how it might be resolved. What I want to begin with is an understanding of some of the pitfalls that are attendant to the two-state solution. Incidentally, if you can't see from there, they are within the booklets that you have. So the ladies at the front, or feel free, if you're comfortable doing so, I'm comfortable, you can turn your chairs around, just feel free to do that. So what you're seeing here is a map of the State of Israel. These maps were not selected for any political purpose whatsoever. They're just to illustrate the points being discussed. On the right-hand side of the map, west of the Jordan River, you can see the area known as Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank in lightened colors. On the left-hand side of the map, astride the coast of the Mediterranean Sea toward the southwest of the State of Israel, as you look at it, you can see the Gaza Strip. The two-state solution at its core, of course, calls for contiguity between Judea and Samaria for a Palestinian state that would be established there and the Gaza Strip. A quick point about that: one cannot bring about contiguity between Judea and Samaria and the Gaza Strip without breaching the contiguity of north from south Israel. A cursory view of the geography at play reveals that to be the case. Feel free, by way of your questions, to raise any initiatives that you may have heard about, such as tunnels or overland passes. From the position of defense and security, what you're viewing now is a topographical map. As you look at the topographical map, again in the area delineated by white west of the Jordan River, you see that the high ground upon which would be built a Palestinian state in the two-state paradigm would leave Israel not only being overlooked by the Palestinian state, who would hold the topographical advantage, but also they would be overlooking the lowlands of the State of Israel, approximately in the area of the Gush Dan, which you can see colored in green, abutting the Mediterranean Sea, abutting our coastline. There I'm talking about cities such as Tel Aviv, for example, and our main industrial population and collection of sites. In addition to that, a Palestinian state built there on the hills of Judea and Samaria would render the width of the State of Israel not more than 9 miles at its narrowest point, something that I'm sure most of you are aware of. What you may not be aware of is that General Avivi jogs 9 miles about 3 times a week. So consider that in real-time context. Other things that are attendant to the two-state solution, looking over at the map. In this era, in this epoch of failing states in the Middle East, were the Palestinian state in Judea and Samaria to fail, even with the best of intentions undergirding it, we would face a potentially pernicious corridor of states to our east, beginning in Afghanistan and Pakistan and moving to Iran, Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon. You can even potentially throw Turkey in there if you wish to. And again, not more than 9 miles from the coastline of the State of Israel. Our generals view that as an untenable situation. Most importantly, with regard to the two-state solution, this is why we refer back to this map, no solution currently on the table directly and immediately tackles what has been viewed for a long time as an intractable problem, namely how to resolve the situation in the Gaza Strip, however one chooses to define that situation. The closest that we have come to hearing a clear-cut policy with regards to the Gaza Strip has been stated by former Secretary of State John Kerry, where he said in his final address on the issue, there are solutions for the Gaza Strip, there are options, we can talk about those later. That is about as specific as anybody has moved on the issue of the Gaza Strip. What you're seeing now is as we enter into the new state solution, we actually believe in bringing about a paradigm shift here, beginning with converting the Gaza Strip from being an intractable problem into an integral part of the solution. I want to repeat that. We call to convert the Gaza Strip from being an intractable problem to being an integral part of the solution. What it is that we're seeking to bring about and what it is that we're championing today is the establishment of a free, independent, sovereign, thriving state for the Palestinian Arabs that would be anchored in the Gaza Strip with contiguity into the Sinai Peninsula. If you look to your screen on this side of the room, the top left image is that of the Gaza Strip. The image next to it, ignoring that triangle is not relevant to the purpose of this presentation. The image next to it shows the Gaza Strip in the context of the landmass of the Sinai Peninsula, and the image beneath it shows the Sinai Peninsula in the context of mainland Egypt. What we want you to be aware of is that unlike in the two-state paradigm, right here you can see that there is land that gives at least the opportunity for a viable state to be established. I want to also now return to the issue of topography and talk about defense just for a moment. Here you have the same topographical map to which I referred you earlier in the presentation. It is the exact inversion in the new state paradigm to the paradigm that we are concerned about in the two-state scenario, meaning that if you look at the image here on the screen at the moment, the area where we would establish the state for the Palestinian Arabs with contiguity to the Sinai Peninsula is actually bordered by the high ground of the Negev desert. You can see that Israel would therefore hold the high ground, the high mountains. It would also overlook the lowlands of the Palestinian state in the new state, and by way of the territory afforded us by way of the Negev, the state of Israel, in case the new state should become a belligerent force, would have the ability to defend itself. It would be given and granted the necessary strategic depth to repel any threats. The gentleman by whom I'm joined are very clear-eyed about the notion of defensibility. So that you know what undergirds as well the idea of the new state solution, what you're seeing here is the coastline of Tel Aviv. Everybody on this stage believes that the coastline of the new state in the Sinai Peninsula can go even beyond what is being depicted here. It, of course, comes with a harbour, with an airport, with the opportunity for trade, commerce, hospitality, and tourism. This slide, the penultimate slide, is a satellite image taken overlooking the Sinai Peninsula at night. You see above the Sinai Peninsula the densely populated areas, again west of the Jordan, of the state of Israel, of Judea and Samaria, and even of the Gaza Strip. But what I want you to notice is this. The Egyptian population continues to this day to build its civilization, its cities and its infrastructure along the river Nile. There is a real interest at play for the Egyptians that I'll allow our experts to talk more about, not without the consideration that right now the Ethiopians are developing one of the largest dams in the world, which will severely restrict the amount of water flowing toward Egypt. What you see there, ladies and gentlemen, if it was to be encapsulated in one word, is potential. There is the potential to build in a sparsely populated area of the world a state that would be free, thriving, sovereign for the Palestinian Arabs. The final slide that I want to refer you to before I introduce the gentleman here is a statement made by Secretary of State John Kerry in his final address, official address on the issue before he shuffled off the international stage. He might be back, I hear. The rumor is he might be coming back. But it says here, quote, "The United States is deeply committed to securing Israel's future as a Jewish and democratic state. We are also committed to an independent, viable Palestinian state where Palestinians live with freedom and dignity. The only way to achieve that is through a negotiated solution that creates two states for two peoples living side by side in peace and security." We submit to you that the new state solution is absolutely adherent to that description. It merely requires that we reimagine the borders along which the state would be built. It would still be two states for two peoples living side by side in security. I want to now, before I turn it over to General Avivi, to tell you who we have on the stage with us. The gentleman here is Brigadier General Amir Avivi. He is the principal of the New State Solution. His last position was that of Chief Auditor for the entire defense establishment of the State of Israel. That's the military, the civilian sector, and the intersection between. He was the commander of the School of Combat Engineers, Deputy Division Commander of the Gaza Strip, which is relevant to this issue, Brigade Commander of the Egyptian border, relevant to this issue, and the aide-de-camp to Lieutenant General Chief of Staff Moshe Ya'alon, Bogi Ya'alon. To my far left here, I have General Shmuel Zucker, who concluded his service in the Israel Defense Forces, again at the rank of Brigadier General. He had the opportunity to lead and to command the Israeli forces in the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank as well, also known as the Judea and Samaria Division, and in the security zone in Lebanon. He was the commander of the division of the Gaza Strip, it bears noting, when there was only one division, and this was the commander. It means that this individual is particularly familiar with the attitude in the Palestinian street, because being a general is to a great extent about avoiding war as well. So he spoke to them, he interacted with them, they were his interlocutors. He's well placed to speak on the issue. His last position was that he served as a Deputy Director General, Head of Directorate for Production and Procurement, again in the Israeli Ministry of Defense. To my right here is Major General Gershon HaKohen in the reserves. Major General Gershon HaKohen was the commander of the National Defense College. He was the commander of the Northern Corps, commanding 4 divisions, numbering approximately 100,000 troops. He was also the commander of the strategic exercise of the General Staff for 2 decades and remains an advisor in that capacity to this day during his reserve duty. He also commanded, and this is an important point which should inform the questions today, he commanded the troops responsible for the disengagement from the Gaza Strip when he was a Brigadier General, which was undertaken during the premiership of Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. We also have Brigadier General Nehemia Sokal. Brigadier General Nehemia Sokal is the immediate past Chief of Staff for the technological and logistical branch of the Israel Defense Forces. Among other things, he is the individual who got the phone call to identify and implement the counter-tunnel technology that is now being implemented and that you're hearing about along the Gaza Strip. He was also responsible for the coordination and deployment of the Israel Defense Forces, air, land and sea in times of peace, in times of war, and in times of disaster readiness. We are among very, very esteemed company. I'll ask General Avivi to supplement for just a moment or two, and then we will take questions from the floor. Thank you very much indeed.